and welcome back to our 12 days of Christmas. Today is day 3 and we're making this card. Today I'm going to show you a technique as well in this video, and it's how to create your own custom stamp pad. And for this we're going to be using Cut and Dry Stamp Pad Felt by Inkcentials. This is what it looks like. It looks like an uninked stamp pad basically. For this you'll need your favorite stamp, whichever you want to use for the technique. You'll need archival ink, which should be fade resistant and waterproof, archival ink cleaner, scissors, a water brush. You'll also need some re-inkers. Here I have the Distress inks, but if you have other brands, just make sure that they are water-based and they are dye ink. And last but not least, you're going to need a sandwich bag, and I'll explain to you why. And if you are using an acrylic or a cling mount stamp, you will need an acrylic block. And for the technique I'm going to show you, you'll need a piece of white cardstock as well as a piece of watercolor paper. For my first example, I'll be using this Treemungus stamp set by Hero Arts, and I'll be using this tree over here. So I've got it mounted already on my acrylic block, and I'll be using the Jet Black Archival ink. I have an old pad here. I know there's a different packaging now, but it's still the same ink. I'll just be inking up my stamp. And I'll be stamping here. I'm going to maximize my felt. And I'll be stamping this right here. Give it a very good press. Like so here. Now you'll think, oh, your image is faded, it won't stamp. This is not what's going to stamp. This is just to give us an outline. The reason why we're using waterproof ink is that we'll be using our re-inkers to color in the image. So basically this is just a guide. The good thing about Distress inks, and the reason why we're using those for this project, is that the inks don't blend into each other. They stay as is. Because if they were to blend together, then eventually we'll end up with like a big brown mess, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to start with my peel paint, and I'm just going to color in the image with my re-inker, dropping some ink as I go. So as you see, I've left some of the some parts of the tree blank, and that's because I want to go in with my forest moss and take care of those areas. And I'll be using a bit of walnut stain for the tree trunk. And now this is our stamp pad. I know it looks like a mess, but trust me when I say this, when we stamp with it, it'll be nice. I'm just going to cut this shape out, like so. Put this aside. And before I go ahead and stamp using this stamp pad, I just want to clean my stamp that I used with the archival ink. This is very important, otherwise you'll contaminate your stamp pad. Wipe it clean. Our stamp is clear, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our stamp and lay it over the image that's on our stamp felt pad and press it down real well, making sure that it's inked properly, and watch the magic. And there you have it. You have a tree that's got multiple colors on it. This felt pad will give you about 30 to 50 stampings. Just to show you, I'm going to go ahead and stamp another one. I'm going to line up my stamp, give it a good press, and stamp. And there are my two images, exact replica using the same stamp pad that you just made. And the trick to keeping this stamp pad wet is to store it in some kind of an airtight container or a Ziploc bag. A sandwich bag is just as easy, and you'll get, like I said, 30 to 50 uses out of one stamp pad. Let me show you another cool technique. For a variation of this technique, I'm going to be using a different stamp. This one is the Classic Holly, again by Hero Arts. But because it's a rubber stamp, I'm not going to use the acrylic block, because what I want to do is I want to outline the shape of my stamp before I lift it after I've stamped it with the archival ink, and you'll see why. So I'm going to repeat the same process as my first stamp with the tree, and I'll stamp right on it. Give it a good press, and while it is still on my felt, I'll grab my pen and I'm just going to trace the outline of my shape. And that is so that when I go back to stamp on my finished design, then I'll be able to line up my stamp properly. And I know that all my colors will be in the right place. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out. I'm going to go in and do some of the holly berries in fired brick. And I'm going to repeat the same exact steps as I did with my tray. Like so. Then this is H Mahogany. I'm just going to do the other berries. Moving on to Walnut Stain, I'm going to do the branches. And then for the leaves, I'm going to use Forest Moss in the middle. And then I'm going to fill out the rest with crushed olive. Alright, so now we're going to take our stamp, and this time I'm going to put it on my acrylic block because I really want a good impression. And before I go ahead, remember you have to clean your stamp from the archival ink, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I'm just going to line up my image. Like so. Give it a good press. And now, instead of using regular paper, I'm going to bring in my watercolor paper, and you'll see why in a minute. So I'm just going to lift this and stamp. Look at this gorgeous image. How amazing is this? Imagine doing like 20 cards with this design. It would be a breeze. You don't have to use your markers every time. The reason why we stamped on watercolor paper is now I want to go back over my design with a water pen like this, or water brush, and I'm just going to start brushing over this beautiful ink that we just put in, and now I can add some shading to my design. How cool is that? Again, like I said, don't forget to store your stamp pad that you just made inside a sandwich bag or some type of a airtight container. I guess bags are the easiest to manage. And then you'll be good to go. You'll be able to use this over and over again until the ink runs out. Here's another image that was done with a different stamp, but the same technique using blues and purples. I really like this. And how cool would this big sentiment be? You could do each letter a different color. Before I give you the dimension for today's card, I just wanted to point out something that some of the companies have started doing on their pattern paper. If you see here at the bottom, there's a strip that gives you all the information of that particular collection. But if you flip it over, there's actually a decorative border that you can use on your project. So before you get rid of these strips, look on the other side. Today's card is really simple and quick and perfect for mailing out because there's no bulk to it. It doesn't require a lot of supplies, and it's also my favorite format, the 3x6 card. You'll need one piece of white cardstock measuring 3x12, folded in half, one piece of red cardstock measuring 2.5 by 5.5, one piece of pattern paper cut at 2 3/8 by 4 inches, one piece of coordinating pattern paper cut at 2 3/8 by 1.5 inches, and a decorative strip from your pattern paper that is 2 3/8 inches long. Of course, you're going to need your stamped image, and I've gone ahead and cut my tree with scissors. You'll need some rhinestones, a sentiment stamp, and here I'm using Have a Tremendous Christmas by the same stamp set that I used the tree from. Some ink. I'm going to be using the archival ink because I have it out. And of course some foam adhesives and a tape runner or your favorite adhesive. And there it is, quick and easy. Now this card would be ideal for mass producing. Tomorrow is day 4 of our 12 days of Christmas, and we'll be making our last card, but this time around it'll be a card for kids, so make sure you tune in for this. And I hope you've been enjoying those video tutorials for our 12 days. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them as quickly as I can. And I will be talking to you tomorrow. Bye! The